Hello, first graders. This is Miss Rachna to do a little bit of science with you this time. I wanted to just introduce you to a different kind of pattern. I know you've been doing a lot of patterns in math, and I don't know if you've noticed that you have worked on all kinds of patterns recently. For example, you might have done something like this, where you filled in missing numbers. And if there was no pattern in these missing numbers, it would be really hard to know what number goes there, right? If I gave you a random set of numbers, like I said, okay, figure out what number goes next, and here are some numbers and see what comes next. 18, 35, 2, 6, 9, 100. Would you have any idea what comes next? Nope. Let's say I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What comes next? You would know, right? If I said, okay, what comes next? Monarch butterfly, atlas moth. Monarch butterfly, atlas moth. Monarch butterfly. You would know what comes next because you can figure out the pattern, right? Or if I said 75, 65, 55, you would know that 45 comes next. 35, 25, 15. So all of these string of numbers that I've made are all patterns. 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, or 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So you got the idea. Pattern is when you can tell what's coming, right? And so I thought, something that first graders are able to do is think about, you're old enough to do this kind of science. And in this science, I would like first graders to be scientists and observers of the sky and see if they notice any patterns in the sky. Are there patterns? If there's a pattern, you can tell what's coming next. And there are some objects in the sky that appear in a pattern. I'm not talking about birds, and I'm not talking about airplanes. These are things in the sky that are always there, okay? And they may change a little bit, but you have to observe what is changing and how is it changing. And by observing it, can you tell what's going to happen the next day? Okay, let me show you a picture that might help you. So I'm going to show you this moon journal that I've been keeping this month, thinking that maybe you could do the same thing. Now, I already started on April 1st, but when I looked on April 1st, I noticed that part of the moon was dark and half of the moon was lit up. So I started to think, I wonder what will happen if I look at the same time at the moon. What would the moon look like? The moon looked slightly different. April 3rd, it looked similar to the day before, but slightly different. And then, if you remember that on the 7th, there was a full moon. In fact, the day before it looked like it was a full moon, and the day after it looked pretty full. It was hard to tell the difference. Right? And then I've been observing it. Usually I try to set my alarm for 8 o'clock, and so I can go out and look at the moon. And every day, right at 8 o'clock, I go to look. But sometimes I don't make it. Like on the 15th, I was in the middle of something, I couldn't do it. So here's what I noticed. Watch how the moon is changing. It starts with half the moon being bright and half the moon being dark. Then a bigger part was bright. Bigger, bigger, and then it was a full moon. The entire moon was bright, like a big round ball. And then I started to notice there was a certain part, half of it was dark, but I started to notice that when it first started on the first, the right side was bright and the left side was dark. And then after the full moon, the other side started to be bright. The left started to be bright and the right started to be dark. Now, I haven't finished the cycle yet, right? My job was to come back to the same day, same look of the moon, where half of the right side was bright and the left side was dark. I want to come back to see what the pattern is. Right now, I don't know what my pattern is, right? Right now, I'm just making observations. So I have some predictions to make, like for the 20th, which is today. I have a feeling that since if I look at the one before for Sunday, a big part was black. My guess is that tonight it would be pretty much the same, except the brighter part will be even smaller. It'll be just a sliver of white, because I'm noticing that the dark part of the moon keeps getting bigger. So if you go back, the black part is growing and the white part is shrinking, right? The brighter part is shrinking. See how this was pretty big? See how it's smaller, 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 smaller. My guess is it's going to be smaller. So here's what I'd like you to do. I have given you a sheet. If you look at this, it's sideways, but when you print it, it'll be fine. So this is your moon journal. You're going to print it out and you're going to set an alarm or something so that you can check the moon at the same time every day, because that's an important thing. You have to try to do it the same day. Because what if you went in the morning and said, well, there's no moon today, and then you just didn't even draw it, and that's not going to work, right? So you have to make sure that you do it at the same time. And if there are clouds and you cannot see the moon, then you try again. You go back after an hour and see what happens. Okay, maybe the clouds have moved. So you're going to keep this for a whole, this is my journal. Okay, I will keep a record until I get to the next time my moon looks exactly the same. Okay, so I know then I can use that to make a prediction. Since you're starting on Monday, pay very close attention to your moon and how it looks on Monday. Right here, this is where it would start. And then record your moon every single day until your moon looks identical. Okay, and then we can talk about what pattern you noticed. Can you tell what the moon would look like? Are you in a place where you can start making predictions about the moon? Okay, have fun with your moon journal.